would say that in terms of my competence, I am a team worker. I take a lot of pride in working within the team. I have had the privilege, I have talked about advocacy and training and litigation as a litigation lawyer, but within the Ministry of Water, I did various matters, various things in terms of the work, which was new to me that time. And my handover report speaks for itself. It talks about non-revenue, reducing non-revenue, coming up with frameworks for reducing non-revenue water. In water, we also were able to come up with a framework for water purchase agreements to work within the framework of PPP. We did several boreholes, several strategic plans to raise funding to the tune of, by the time I was leaving, we had about a total, including the Kenya budget, we had a total of about 80 billion for water. I was able to understand the mandate very fast, and we raised the water coverage from 65%, the national water coverage from 65% to 72% by the time I was leaving within that short period. And then sanitation from 26% to 32%. Now, in the Ministry of Lands, where I have then served for those other 10 months, now I believe this was my 10th month, we have various programs that are running, and therefore I would say that in terms of the work that I have been doing, and I'm very thankful to His Excellency the President for returning me back by way of this nomination back to the ministry that I have been for the last 10 months. I find that as a confirmation in one way or the other, or expression of confidence that I did my work for those few months properly, and subject to the approval, I'm willing to serve the country in that capacity. There are a lot of challenges in the ministry, but in terms of competence as a lawyer, I do not find myself as a stranger. For example, in the State Department for Lands, where obviously there are matters that I had done before. I was exposed to conveyancing, but I was not exposed to some of the challenges that are there, including fraud, including cartels, including bad practices, which we have, with the support of Parliament, I'm sure we'll be able to overcome. So I'm a team worker, I'm a hard worker, I believe in hard work and honesty, and I have the right aptitude to carry out my duty as a minister.
Do. Yeah. Thank you. I'll invite the Deputy Speaker to fire at you the first question.
Okay, Honorable Wahome, I'd like to ask you this, and because it's one of the questions that most lawyers are asking. There's been the ongoing digitization of land transactions and records to curb corruption. There's been the rollout of RD SASA, which was having a challenge, and I know that also you had the ministry's strategic plan 2023-2027. Could you tell us what you are already doing in regards to these three areas, but also what you would do, and that you feel that there's still challenges going forward if your confirmation of your nomination is made? Thank you.
I thought you said you have some support staff with you.
The question is what we are doing in respect of the RD SASA, the digitization and digitalization system within the ministry, the Department of Lands. and that there are several questions coming towards that particular strategy to deal with the land. One, this particular program is meant to bring efficiency to secure land records and to provide maybe surety that the security of the records will be maintained with integrity. The program started way back in 2014, and where we are, I could safely say that we have been able to cover the entire Nairobi with about, which has about 300,000 titles, and you can be able to access the AdhiSasa platform, and therefore we are at a better place. But I still know that there are a few records that we are still working on loading. And of course, with the huge developments that are coming up, we'll still require to have a bigger space in terms of that platform so that we can capture land in real time, be able to give records to the public in real time, and accessibility becomes easier and more assured. The story of missing files should be one of our bad history, so that this is a system that we should encourage, embrace as an information management system. What we have moved now to Murang'a, to Isiolo, to Mombasa with the same system, and we are already working in another 27 registries where we have been able to take our scanners, because the first exercise you do is to network within provide the infrastructure, then you do the scanning of the records. You know, our records have been manual. We want to, of course, to get rid of the manual records, not completely throw away the records, but be able to know that we have the information system properly secured, but then the records are put on, on board, loaded. With that, then we can be able to say that I want to be very honest with the Parliament, because I'm at the right place. We needed a better budget, a bigger budget, to the tune of between 35 and 40 billion to be able to secure all our records under the digitization system. And of course, the country needs to be able to have fiber networking in those other places. And therefore, another maybe 5 years, we can safely be able to do this, provided that we get sufficient budget as a country to cover it. And yeah.
Majority Leader.
Honorable Speaker, yes, nominee.
Your gadget is not working.
No, it's working now.
Thank you. CS Nomi, I will not ask questions of if you are approved, because you have been the Cabinet Secretary for Lands for at least a year or so. And you are aware there have been very many cases of land grabbing around the country. And we've also seen you on TV on some land which was alleged to have been grabbed somewhere in Loresho. And you also know of many other cases that have been brought to your attention, or the attention of your office, your former office at the Ministry of Lands, around Windsor and other areas. Cases where your ministry officials of the National Lands Commission, those from the police have been involved. I would want to hear what you would do, if approved, or what you have been doing to curb the rampant cases of land grabbing, and especially considering the recent court judgment by the Supreme Court that a title by itself is not prima facie evidence that you are the owner of, legitimate owner of land, that one needs to go beyond that face value of the title to check how that title was acquired from the initial first owner. And you're aware, many of the cases that you have been dealing with are cases where land is illegally transferred from the bona fide owners to land grabbers, and with the protection of or facilitation of officers in the Ministry of Lands and protection of other government officers, including the police, they take away people's land. What is it that you have been doing to address that, and what will you do that will now completely curb that vice? Lastly, is your engagements with the National Lands Commission. I would want to hear your firm commitment to respecting independent constitutional commissions like that of the National Lands Commission, knowing their boundaries between the work of the ministry and independent commissions like the National Lands Commission. What is your position on the role of the National Lands Commission vis-a-vis the role of the ministry that you have been working in? Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable Ichung'wa, for those questions. It is true, and it should be actually a national tragedy to have the fact to have a situation where a title is not prima facie evidence, necessary prima facie evidence of ownership. When I was going through my university law course, I knew that title, and the land law that was taught is that title is sacred. The title deed is almost absolute, but it's no longer the case because, as you have rightly pointed out, we are aware of very many cases of fraud being carried out by Kenyans with the support of sometimes unscrupulous...
You mean Kenyan criminals? Because not every Kenyan is carrying out fraud.
Kenyan fraudsters.
Yes.
Kenyan fraudsters and cartels. And they are not just, when we say cartels, I want to clarify. They are powerful cartels, they are moneyed cartels. Some of them surprisingly have made money through those kind of fraudsters, but then maybe cleansed that money into institutions like schools, like banks, like other maybe real property investments. And they are also powerful. But of course, they are also the ordinary cartels and criminals also who don't have much money, but they are part of the whole system. And I have come across very many, and some are very sad cases, because people have, the cartels have reached a point where they don't respect the title deeds, and sadly, many times, or quite largely, the officers of the ministry have been, in numerous cases, part and parcel of procuring those kind of titles. When you look at the Land Act, to be able to deal a big blow to the cartels when they secure fraudulent titles, and you, Honorable Speaker, I mean that you are the owner, say, of this particular building, cartels come and they perform some miracle and procure another title, where your title is safely somewhere, maybe under the locus of this particular building or parliament. And that title is the normal paper that we use for titling in this country. But other times it could be that paper, but the signatures are superimposed, or signatures of former commissioners of lands, maybe former registrars, both dead and alive. Not that they are the ones who signed, but some of our retired officers have also been part of that cartel. They've been signing. Some in their death, they are said to have signed. And therefore, what am I doing? I think we need to work on some amendments very quickly on the Land Act, so that the minute the registry, the technical information on the land records are known to be interfered with, to have been fraudulently secured or changed, so then the registrar, say the chief land registrar, should be able to immediately effect a cancellation and leave by law, because the minister is the custodian of all land titles, and therefore be able to say this record should look like this, and so that the person flagging another title out there should be left to be the one to have the honors of going to court to prove that the ministry has changed records or altered records and that these are the true records. What has happened is that the ministry, previously the courts have taken the position that a title is sacred, a title can only be cancelled by the court. And you know, for the court to arrive at a position where it is able to say that these are the records, truly the evidence must be produced before the court by the chief land registrar or through his officers, so that then the court can be able to rely, will always rely in a good judgment, well-reasoned judgment. The court should be able to summon, or the owners of the case to be able to call for witnesses and the right records to inform the court, to help the court arrive at the right decision, is evidence from the ministry. So therefore, there is no reason why we should, as a ministry, not be able to rectify the records. When you look at the current section 79, yes, it's not clear that you can be able to alter that title. Anyway, Mr. Speaker, I have been asked what I have been doing. I have been utilizing that section. Severally, I have impugned some of the documents because they are obvious frauds, and therefore I'm not willing to take the dirty work of my ministry to the courts. Let the person alluding or alleging that they have a good title go take me to court, and that should happen to the same for everybody. What has the fraudsters have actually taken that section and utilized it in their favor, and you know they have the money to influence, to pay lawyers, good lawyers, and eventually you may be the owner of the title and find yourself losing. It has happened. We have several cases in the High Court, others in the Court of Appeal, where people, genuine owners of land, are struggling with judgments that don't make sense at all. And I do not want to go beyond that, but they don't make sense, and they cannot. So therefore, we need to change the law to some extent to be able to give clarity to what the registrar should be able to do in the event that there is a clear fraud. I have taken the position that I will tackle the fraudsters. I have found myself in one of the notorious cases. I was actually locked up in a suit premises, not a suit premises, in a property that is clearly the records. I found the records had actually been already rectified. The records were okay, but there is somebody also claiming they have a good title, and I was locked by goons within. I think the police were part of the system, so that even when we entered there with them, as a minister, Honorable Speaker, and if there is one time I feared, is that one time, because it was down the valley. Even if it meant me running up, I would have had a challenge to run the hill up. And these are young goons who have been put to guard this property. Maybe you should ask, why did I think I should go there? I'm taking this fight to the crime scenes, Honorable Speaker. And I'm willing to do that, because once I have established that this is a title, either for schools, for institutions, because these people have stolen land right, left, center. A lot of government land has been taken away, including prisons land. Institutions have lost land to them, to either people working within or people working within those institutions and other people. So I am taking the war to the crime scenes. And I believe that I need a lot of support from the police for purposes of enforcement. And but with the law, the answer is really dealing a big blow by use of the law, so that it is clear what we should do when we are faced with those kind of things. Yeah.
Junet.
Thank you, Chairman and Speaker. So, Mr. Chairman, my question to the nominee is, first, Madam Nominee, can you tell the committee, in the period that you are there as a Minister for Lands, you have been, as you have just put it now, you have been following up grabbed lands and land that have been grabbed. Can you mention which public land can you say you have recovered from grabbers as of now? And secondly, whether it was necessary for you to go to that scene, what necessitated you going to that place? Because how many land can you visit as a minister to go and that is a security issue, that is the enforcement issue. But more importantly, there was a bill that was authored from the ministry, the Lands Amendment Act, that was withdrawn by the majority leader. And you wanted to take the powers of the National Land Commission completely. What necessitated that? What was the reason behind why you wanted to usurp the powers of the Independent Commission? And lastly, the issue of disappearance of files in the Ministry of Land still exists. Kenyans go to the Ministry of Land, RD House, they can't find their files. And we have been told that land was being digitized since when the former Cabinet Secretary was there, Farida. Up to that time, up to now, from that time up to now, digitization is still going on. But files cannot be traced. When will this issue of disappearance of Kenyans' files end, Madam CS? Thank you very much. Nominees, thank you very much.
The Honorable Ichongwa had asked the same question on the, what is our mandate vis-a-vis the mandate of the National Land Commission, and are we respecting the mandates of the, is there any issue? As far as I'm concerned, Honorable Speaker, there is no problem or challenge. We've not had any conflict or fight between my office and the office of the National Land Commission. In fact, I would say that I am having quite a cordial working relationship with the chairman and his commission. But that does not mean then we abscond or we abandon our duty, and therefore each has their mandate. Our main mandate in relation to titling is we are the ones, the minister is the one who does the leases. In fact, all leases in this country are signed by the minister. I would say not my signature, but for the minister. So I take responsibility for all the leases, including those that are going around there that are fraudulent. Secondly, we also do the title deed or the certificates of title. That's done by my registrars. So to that extent, then, our work is different because the National Land Commission's main mandate is to manage public land, administration and management of public land. And the amendments that we were proposing were speaking to the valuation. I still think that I will be able to come and persuade Parliament that valuation of government projects land, compulsory acquisition should be, the valuation should be done by the owners of the project, by the government, because we are the, you see, the National Commission is an independent organ of this country. And therefore, if it is the government that is doing its projects, there is nothing wrong in them doing the evaluations between the buyer and the government. And therefore, I think those are some of the amendments we were proposing. That does not take any power of the commission given under the Constitution. I think you could talk about maybe the law, but anything that is not working for the government within the law then requires some changes. You are aware that we have had a big challenge as a government by overstating and overvaluing you may not be able to confirm in terms of the valuations, the integrity and the authority of that valuation. The chief government valuer is under my ministry, and therefore that is something we've been in the leases are, what they do is to provide allotment, is to allow allotment and give no objection for allotments to be issued by the county governments, and therefore ensuring that public land is granted to only those who deserve to be granted the public land. And we have no dispute in respect of allotments of land between ourselves and the national government. So in terms of going to how many places can I go, if I can go to 5 or 10 and provide the statement that is needed to stamp authority of the government in terms of telling the cartels that I'm here and I will not allow, and I can tell you, Honorable Speaker, it has worked to some extent. But I said what I need is the law to be explicit, to be clear, to be able to tackle the problem of cartel. Otherwise, nobody is safe with their title deed if we are not going to deal a death blow to cartels. And I'm willing to walk along that journey with the Parliament.
Thank you, Chairman. I'll just make a brief comment because I was going to also ask some questions on the amendment bill number 2 of 2023, but since it was withdrawn from the House, I will not dwell on it in the House in Parliament. I'll not dwell so much on it, but just to let you know, in case this committee approves you and the National Assembly, if you rethink of bringing it back, please look at some of the clauses that I need, because from the events of this that happened in this country 2 months ago, you have realized that we have a very informed population in this country. And so that issue of NLC had come up, and Kenyans were with issues of land, and you know how land is emotive. The second thing that was on it that Kenyans raised was the issue of inserting a new clause which will force freehold land owners, property owners who enjoy free ownership for perpetuity and can use the land for any purposes to pay land rate. You know, that was just a comment since it has been withdrawn. So to my question, one, who is a cartel? Every CS nominee talks of a cartel. I want you to explain to this committee your definition of cartel. The second question is the whole issue of the housing levy. By April 2024, the government had collected in excess of Kenya shillings 34 billion. How many houses can you confidently say have been constructed and completed as we speak? And lastly, with the Finance Act having been declared unconstitutional, I think yesterday, do you understand its import on the housing project, and what next if this committee then finds you suitable to hold that office? Thank you.
Take another. Nelson.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Mine is actually very brief. Affordable housing is one of the key pillars of Kenya Kwanza administration. In fact, the President has been many times quoted as saying it was a deliberate way of creating employment. I want to ask you, Honourable nominee, how many young people have been employed by this program? And number two, do you think this program is sustainable, and is it working?
Go ahead.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I think it is important that even though Honourable Lesuda has not come by way of a question, for me to make one or two clarifications in respect of the authority and the mandate of the National Land Commission. Because many times there is misinformation or misunderstanding of the mandates. And I believe that there is no misunderstanding between ourselves and the National Land Commission. Sometimes it's just propaganda. If you look at Article 67, the functions of the National Land Commission are to manage public land on behalf of the national and county governments. 2, to recommend a national land policy to the national government. Indeed, I have one document already recommended, and we are working on the national land policy, reviewing it since 2009. The review is supposed to take place every 10 years. Then to conduct research related to land and use of natural resources and make recommendations to appropriate authorities. To initiate investigations on its own motion, that's regarding complaints, historical injustice, and all that. And then finally, then there is to encourage the application of traditional dispute resolution mechanisms to assess tax on land and premiums on immovable property in any area designated by the law. And to monitor and have oversight responsibilities over land use planning. So I believe that the bill, one of the bills was Honorable Leader of Majorities, and the other one was my bill. There was the very sticky issue that was floating around, which was actually an incorrect position, that we had planned to change freehold title to leasehold titles. One, it is practically not possible within the law for me sitting as a minister or any of my officers to change land tenure from one regime to the other, meaning from leasehold, freehold to leasehold. But with the application and consent of the owner, it is possible. So there was no provision that we had brought to do that. What raised maybe concern is the proposal to levy some charge or some fee on freehold ownership within our cities. Let me clarify again. The levy that we had proposed in the bill that was withdrawn was levy on freehold land within cities. So far, by the description of cities under the Urban Areas and Cities Act, we have Nairobi, Mombasa, Kisumu, Nakuru, and Eldoret is soon coming on board because it has been approved. So 5 cities. But the...
Chair, sorry to interrupt the CS, but because we are a House of Records, and she has mentioned a bill that I have sponsored, which what she has said is not accurate. The bill that I had sponsored initially is what then became the Owen Bayer bill, amending the National Lands Commission Act on Section 14 and 15 of the National Lands Commission Act to vest powers to the NLC Act. What Honorable Lesuda was asking is regarding the bill of the Land Amendment Bill number 2 of 2023, which I withdrew, which came from
which was our bill, yes.
And the issue she has raised is the issue of rates on freehold land. And in the bill, again, it was not clear whether it was in cities. It is actually the Committee on Lands of the National Assembly that, in their report, proposed that you limit that to cities. So I think is good.
Yeah, the process was ongoing. I agree and I accept.
What came from the ministry is not what you are saying.
The bill was ours, but there were many proposals to amend even that bill. And so far, maybe the argument is, I'm making this for clarification, that there was no proposal for rates because rates are not payable to the national government or the Ministry of Lands. Rates are payable to the county governments, and they are doing their own review of rates. We were proposing a levy or a charge on freeholds because freeholds within the cities then therefore are enjoying facilities and they are paying nothing. And maybe I could say here that if you look at where the freeholds in this country and in this city, for example, using Nairobi, Honorable Speaker, is that the freeholds are within the Karen, the Muthaiga, the Lavington, and it's important that I say maybe some areas of Kirereshwa, Kitisuru, Kiuna, those upmarket areas. Why? I think it was a skewed way of raising tax against some people and not everybody. So that if you go to the whole of Eastland and the Southlands, then you will find that, you know, areas of all these areas, you know, that I haven't mentioned, they are paying rates and they are paying land rent, both. And therefore, in other countries, what is happening is that if you have a freehold, then you pay, including any other land, you pay some development tax, because the land that you are sitting on is actually has been developed to equal. In this country, then, we are having some people paying and others are not paying. And I think that is a conversation that we will be able to bring back to the National Assembly for debate and discussion, and also robust public participation and debate. And I don't think there is nothing wrong in saying that, but we must understand that in other jurisdictions, what is happening is that there is payment of, you know, charge against land where developments have come and they were not there before, because anyway, these developments must be funded by either the land or by a taxpayer. So, and I think that is what was taken to mean that we are charging a charge on freehold, and there is likelihood.
Alice Wahome, you are being too wordy.
Yeah.
You can say what you are saying in very concise terms.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
The Speaker,
I believe I have maybe exhausted.
Hold, there's a point of order there.
Yeah.
The Speaker, it is good to have clarity on this matter, because that bill was as well a controversial bill. It is very important to have clarity here that the proposal that came from the ministry was that all freehold land be changed to leasehold in the whole republic. It is Parliament, a committee of this Parliament, and that's why Parliament must be given credit to where they do their work, that is suggesting to them that we should maybe do it in cities. But the ministry, what they brought to Parliament was that they want even the ancestral land, that somebody is holding a freehold in Migori. They wanted to change it to leasehold. For what? She should tell us why, what was informing that, instead of now hiding under Parliament.
Alice, why?
The provision was saying that the minister will be able to say, to designate the areas, which then means you designate through regulations, and I would still have had to come to Parliament to be allowed the designated areas that we would have picked. So, and therefore, the proposal by Parliament, I commend. I think it helped and it improved the provision.
Thank you, Chair, and I'm sorry I didn't want to interrupt.
You have interrupted, just go on.
Chair, we are in a vetting process, and the leader of majority and the leader of minority have stated the actual position, but the nominee, she's trying to run away from the reality. The reality is that the bill which came to the House exactly wanted to levy even the ancestral land in this country. And it came from the ministry. She was the CS. So instead of using too many words, please admit we move forward. Because at the end of the day, Kenyans could not accept your proposal. And it came from you. It did not come from the House of Parliament.
Speaker.
It did not come from Kenyans. It came from your office.
Yes, sure.
Yes, Alice.
Speaker, I said that the proposal had indicated that the minister will designate areas where the levy will be. It was not blanket. because it is not possible to collect.
Point of order,
it is not
Chair.
possible to collect levy in the entire country.
Mr. Speaker,
Yes.
that is true. But why do you want to subject a land that is in Bungoma or Migori for a minister who's sitting in Nairobi to designate whether it will be a freehold or a leasehold? Why do you want to do that? Just say it was wrong to do that, and now you are rectifying, you are agreeing with Parliament for that issue to become a city's issue. Just and we move on, Madam C. You are former member of Parliament here.
I think the clarity I have made, I have even given credit to Parliament, but I have said that it is Parliament that was going to give me permission to say where to levy the. Yes.
Point of order,
Okay.
a brief one.
Yes, yes, Naisula.
Thank you, Speaker. And I just want to put it to the nominee, and from what the majority leader had said to another nominee here, that one of the challenges of the cabinet that was there before is communication. Because Kenyans are not understanding what you want to do. When they raise questions, it is said to be propaganda, but now we have confirmed here today that it is actually the truth. And so I think moving forward, if you're confirmed, and the last thing also is when there is public participation and Kenyans have an issue with a clause or with a matter in a bill, it should be discussed thoroughly and given the view of those because the bill could be good, everything else could be good, and we have one contentious issue. Could we exhaust it? Because I can assure you, after what happened in Parliament, these parliamentarians will not be a rubber stamp anymore to any issue that will be contentious, Madam Nominee. So that is all I wanted to do so that we could make progress.
Yeah, thank you. I would hate a parliament that is a rubber stamp. It's of no use to anybody, even themselves. But, and I agree with you, this bill had not even gone to second reading where the debate was going to happen. And during debate, the proposals for amendments would obviously, by the House, I think the subject was still...
We'll make progress. Alice, what the members are telling you is that a bill came from your ministry with these contentious proposals to the House. When it was picked up and spread like wildfire, the ministry maintained a conspiracy of silence. Instead of coming up to say, it was our bill, we withdraw it so that you quell the fire, you said nothing. But that is, let's move on. Posing?
Thank you, Speaker. I think there is need for better communication.
Yes.
I agree with you throughout the entire government, including my former ministry.
Yes, even His Excellency the President has said, lamented, that one of the weaknesses in the government is poor communication. You are doing good things which nobody knows. And when you do bad ones, you don't own up.
Questions on housing levy.
Okay.
Yes,
order, Speaker.
Proceed to the housing levy question. I was asked by Honorable Koech how many people or youth we have employed under the affordable housing levy program. I want to confirm that in our records we have about 106,000 youth, both men and women, and I want to add here that most of them are youthful, below 35, and we ensure also that we include women because we have women who have the skills and artisan skills, yes.
Youth has no gender. It's just youth, men and women.
Sometimes when you say a man, it is said it is also a woman, but until you say it is both male and female, then there is a problem. So thank you, Honorable Speaker, but I would say the youth, it can be youth, women and youth, or youth men. Yes, so we have ensured that gender is also observed in terms of those who are working and benefiting. Is it sustainable? It will be sustainable if we are able to continue with the housing, affordable housing levy. and I'm aware that it is also still in court. Would I say that up to now we have over 100, we have at least 48,000 housing units that are in different stages of construction, between maybe 20% and 95%, some nearing completion. In fact, we expect that we will be launching several of those units this year. And so it is sustainable, because this is one of the best projects and programs that the country can allow to continue. Everything else bad said about it, but this one in terms of employment and in terms of self-sustaining, if we can allow the levy to continue, it is sustainable. And I bet that what we are giving, including allowing housing to people who previously cannot access and afford decent homes, then I would think that the country should take it and proceed with it.
I thank you, Honorable Speaker. And if we were to be direct to the question and answer, we would say we are almost spending 1 hour only for leadership of the House. We have not even had anything ourselves. So, Speaker, what's mine? Mine is this. Nominee, Honorable Alice Wahome. This issue of house levy or house tax, of course, was very controversial, and it is still controversial. However, because it is in place, it is mainly in urban. It's only in urban. And the people who are paying are in the villages. And most of us in Parliament, we represent village constituencies. About 80% of this country is village, or 70% for that matter. And even if, and you know, the government has run to talk about jobs, creation of jobs. My view, Minister, is, if you are confirmed, what will be the housing plan for the rural people who are also paying this tax and paying this levy for people in towns to enjoy houses and to enjoy jobs? Nobody in my constituency or constituency rural who will enjoy those jobs. Nobody will enjoy those housings, right? But we are losing money. So what is it that we are advising even the president or the government in terms of saying, these guys in the rural are paying these taxes or levy, but this is our housing plan for them, so that we can actually move as a country. Thank you, Speaker.
Gikaria.
Thank you, Chair. I will only ask questions that have been raised by Kenyans. The chairman of the IDP camp in Nakuru called New Canaan is asking, after the settlement of the court cases referring to Donga Farm and Kisima Farm, when is the ministry intending to do the titling? Secondly, there is a guy from Joro asking about Ndefo plot in Menengai Slopes and whether there will be titles, whether you will be giving titles to that place called Ndefo plots. Thirdly, is a teacher in my constituency asking about...
Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, not to interrupt my colleague, I think those questions can only be answered by the minister when she is in office substantively. Whether she can give me a title or not. She can't give anything now.
Honorable Chair.
I was about to tell
she's jobless.
Honorable Gikaria, you are assessing the suitability or otherwise of Alice Wahome being reappointed Minister for Lands. Now you're asking her to issue titles.
Sorry, let me rephrase.
Under what authority?
Let me rephrase.
Yes.
Assuming she's appointed to that, assuming she's appointed to that position, Honorable Chair, because these are pertinent issues, Honorable Chair.
On another point of order,
yes.
I think Honorable Junet's point of order was very legitimate, yes, because the questions Honorable Gikaria is asking, even if the minister is approved, are the questions that we change our standing orders for, to cause the minister to appear before the House to answer such questions. These are not questions for a vetting process.
Alice, answer.
I think in
Gikaria, you have relayed concerns of your constituents.
Thank you very much.
Which are not vetting questions.
Maybe the last one, and that is related to the affordable housing.
Go ahead.
Is related to the program. Is a very good program for purposes of employment. But the contractors who are given that do not come and actualize that by adhering to the labor laws by paying, say, for city rates or the rates that are there in the labor law. Maybe what action will she take to confirm that this will be done? And
if she's confirmed.
Thank you.
Again, she can't take action unless we say she'll be a minister. Now, but you can answer those.
I think largely in terms of titering, I want to say that we are not on course because we need better funding for titering. The total number of, in terms of percentage, the country has about 30% of our land titled. Meaning,
Alice, who has asked you that?
Because
the questions they asked
on the titles.
Holding, Posing just asked you about how do rural folks in Kenya benefit from housing levy?
I'm
very simple.
Kikaria.
The second one of Kikaria was, will titles be given to some 2 farms? So it's not titling generally.
Let me say that I think you saved me from answering Kikaria's question.
Yes.
And then we leave it at that.
Are you the one I told last time about reading a book of a witness who talked too much?
No, not me.
It was not you.
Not me.
Yes.
And I'm sure.
I think it was Linturi.
Yes. So I will leave that question. On the question of IDPs is gone. Affordable housing in rural areas.
Yes.
This is a new program, Honorable Speaker, Honorable Members. It's a new program. It's just starting, and it has been met by various challenges, including litigation. I believe even the rural folk are entitled to decent housing. I see the program moving there going forward.
Mary Amase.
Thank you, Chairman. I had 2 questions, but one of them has been, I think, prosecuted well. It was on the proposed levy on land.
Very good.
But I would want to say, Chairman, that there is need to improve the communication in terms of public participation. Probably going forward, we need to change the law so that members are involved in doing public participation with the people we represent so that we disseminate the information and then bring our feedback. But Chair, I want to ask on collapsed buildings. There are reported incidences of collapsed buildings across the country, which have resulted in injuries and loss of lives and property. Oversight of the construction industry falls under the ambit of the State Department of Public Works. So my question is, what has been done to address these cases and to avoid future incidences? In your view, are these measures sufficient in resolving the issue?
Alice?
It is true the regulatory authority, that is NCA, has the mandate in terms of ensuring that only people who are qualified are contractors. But the problem is not just about contractors. I think the problem is deeper. We have people taking shortcuts, and some people also, we need to work collaboration with the county governments, because some of the buildings coming up do not even have plans, so that even the issue of the National Construction Authority or enforcement should start at a further place at the county level. And I think that we need to do our work better. We need to strengthen the Public Works Department, Honorable Speaker, and ensure that in terms of national work, both the national work and the private work, because most of the buildings that collapse are public. But also Kenyans need to work better and ensure that they do their buildings using professionals. There is a lot of shortcut in that regard. So that the Kenyans should be also their own watchmen. I mean, the government cannot be everywhere. I think government is doing its best, but Kenyans must also start building with integrity, meaning applying the law and the regulations.
Daud.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to comment on one thing before I ask you a question. From your CV, you have said you are a member of parliament from 2022 to 2027. So does it mean you were not a minister? I know you were elected until 2027, but you had to resign to? No, it's in her CV. That's what I'm saying. So you need to correct your CV.
I will look at that because it was only 2022.
Let me ask you my question now. Adjudication mistakes on land are normally sometimes done at the lands office, and it costs people to rectify those mistakes in acreage or size or whatever, about 18,000 shillings to rectify. And not just that, you have to pay, initially you had to pay 150 or 300 or 500. That charge has now gone to 3,000 shillings. And there was no public participation when you increased the charge from 300 to 3,000 shillings. Somebody has got 10 parcels of land under adjudication, has to pay 30,000. That's even before you factor in other costs. That is one question. The second question, what is your take on the Dungu Land Commission lands, which were cancelled, which there is a report regarding the same? The last one is regarding affordable housing. You have talked about it, and my colleagues have talked about it. And there were grand launches by His Excellency the President, who has nominated you to that ministry again. But unfortunately, those housing were just launched, and they have not taken off. And like Honorable Laisuda has said, there are 24 billion in that account. So what is that money doing if it is not being used? And those lands are, those housing projects are just stationary. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If you allow me another one, but I think.
Ferdinand, take two. If actually you are appointed as CS, I want to find out, because going around, you will find yourself, there's a lot of upcoming, like you go to a place like Mathare and other places which are congested. There's no plan at all so that you find people living in a very affordable way. What plan do you have to be able to at least streamline some of these upcoming dwelling facilities that actually are causing problems? You'll find that even getting electricity in a place like that is not there. And somebody staying in a place in Mathare, and water is actually passing through her house. So what plan would you have for that kind of thing? Secondly, I come from Trans Nzoia. This affordable housing scheme, have you actually ignored Trans Nzoia? Or what is happening when it's supposed to be countrywide projects that's supposed to help people in areas that Trans Nzoia, where people actually also need those affordable housing? Alice?
I have not picked, let me start with the Trans Nzoia. I haven't picked this specifically, but if we have no affordable housing program coming, I think I want to assure you that the first entry to the affordable housing program is the 290 constituencies. Every constituency is supposed to be a beneficiary when we roll out fully of a minimum of 210 housing units. So yes, we will be there. And of course, there with the available land, I won't say when, because it's a program that as soon as possible, maybe we don't even have land in your place, so you needed to work with the ministry to get land for that. And I'm not saying there isn't, because I don't have my document with me. I believe in Trans Nzoia County, we already have some affordable housing programs coming up. Who are you? Yeah. We do have. It's okay. We will be there, and I'm sure that it is every other wish of member to work with the ministry to ensure that they are there faster than maybe they even plan. Yeah. Then the slum upgrading. We have a very good slum upgrading program. It's the one working in, for example, in Kibera. We are in Mukuru. We will be going to Mathare, and therefore, what I can say is that the government needs support for the affordable housing program. The houses for the slum upgrading is even cheaper. Those houses are even cheaper than the social housing, and we have a lot of goodwill in terms of funding.
Just hold there. We are now classified as a middle-income country, right?
Generally.
Kenya. Not generally. We are classified.
Yes.
We are not a HIPIC. Highly indebted poor country. We are not. Now, when you talk of slum upgrading, is your policy to eliminate slums or to upgrade slums? How do you upgrade a slum?
That could be the terminology that we are using, but basically, you know, we are providing the necessary infrastructure, water, ensuring that the necessary facilities, including electricity, connectivity, and is available, and roads. And the program is well funded by the UN, the European Union, World Bank, and also AFD. So I think that the question is, why are we talking of slum upgrading instead of slum eradication? Maybe that is something we can think about and change the name.
No, I think if I have understood her well, Speaker, she's saying they want to make slums habitable. That people can still live in slums, but they become a better place where they...
That cannot be the direction of our country.
It is not. It is not. It is basically, once we work, we eliminate the slum. So possibly we need to change the wording of that program, the title.
I think, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let's begin by saying maybe that concept of slum upgrading is not our concept.
Yes.
The financiers, you've talked about them.
Yes.
Those are the people who brought that terminology, because you build for me nice things up country and a slum upgrading, and it's a misnomer. Two questions. The first one is on housing levy. We are interested in this because we are told we have actually collected lots of money through those levies, and there was a report in the papers that the PS had actually invested the money on treasury bonds. That sounded a little bit odd, but you may need to confirm whether indeed we do have that surplus, and that is the route we are taking, while at the same time, His Excellency the President has taken another route of saying, instead of just affordable housing for people to buy, we will now put up hostels in institutions, which I think is a very good program that would go side by side with the affordable housing. On land, again, if you are confirmed, we have experienced the President going around the country and interacting with the people. They come up to him to say, we do not have title deeds, and we need those title deeds. And he makes generous promises that in 2-3 months, I'll be back here to give you the titles that you need. As the person responsible for policy, are there policies in place where you can actually carry out those premises without having to embarrass the head of state, so that those down there do not say he gave false promises, etc., etc. You're able to carry out to the letter when the promise is made, it's actually executed.
Answer that, Alice. Dawood is protesting that you didn't answer his question. Yes. And then Dungu report. Go ahead.
I asked 3 questions. I asked about the adjudication, about the Dungu report and the affordable housing, where nothing is going on. and you've got 24 billion in the account, putting in treasury bills or bonds.
Yes, Minister.
I could start by looking at the Dongo report is a very good document report, and I know that several of the properties that are within and picked by the Dongo report will clearly indicate the kind of cartel that I was talking about. I know I was asked to define what is a cartel. I think, in short, a cartel is a thief. It's a thief for land. The Dongo report is a lot of, I don't have the figures, but some of the land recovered has been recovered through the EACC, because we have institutions, some we have had to go to court through EACC, and it is work in progress. The report is still live. That's what I would say. Affordable housing, everybody wants affordable housing, but there is also recognition that there has been a lot of disruption on this particular program, both by cases and therefore implementation, and that's why we had some money not able to implement immediately, because when you have also cases going on, you need first to understand where you are. And it is not that there is surplus. We have also already procured for all that money you are talking about. What happened, Honorable Speaker, is that the last financial year, 2023-2024, we had a balance that was not utilized because payments had not been done to the tune of about 38 billion shillings. And it would be reckless to hold money into a general account without investing it, even if it's short term. So there is, it's not that it's being invested because there is no work. We have 106,000 housing units. Right now, we are releasing the newly procured ones, over 55,000, and therefore, I want to confirm that that money is already taken up, plus, of course, unexpected, maybe annual income through the levy of about 62 to 63 billion shillings if, you know, the Kenya revenue does its work properly. And I think that is the amount we expect. So per year, about 63 to 65 billion shillings. So the 38 is part of the budget that we presented and will all be spent in this year. So Dawu, I want to encourage you. I believe that I'm here to seek support also for my suitability, and when that happens, then if that happens, I think on my part I should say if that happens, then we should be looking at, Meru is a beneficiary of some of our affordable housing. We've come there with the president, so maybe we have not reached your constituency.
No, Speaker, they have launched with His Excellency, put the stone.
Your question is that we have not
moved
started.
Even one way, and they've got the money in the account while she was the minister. That's why I'm not saying if she's confirmed. While she was the minister, it has not moved.
Sometimes, Honorable Speaker, I appreciate the concern of the Honorable Member. Sometimes lack of takeoff is because of various things. Maybe documentation, perfection is not complete, logistical issues. Sometimes even when we do proper investigation, you find that the contractor who had said that they are able to take off sometimes get a bit of delay, and we are supporting even local contractors. So I don't think it's a case where we are that so strict. We are working with our local contractors, and you know, sometimes logistical issues, and thank you, Honorable Junet, for once. I know it is a very important key issue in terms of implementation.
Yes, Owen.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I want to ask one question, one very important question. Cabinet nominee, you know, land in this country is one of the reasons why we had the 2010 Constitution. It's one of the key aspects. And it actually gave birth to Article 67, which formed the National Lands Commission, where people from regions that for a long time had issues on land, especially historical land injustices, that gave birth to Ndungu report, Njonjo report, and many other reports, pushed and voted. My people woke up very early in the morning to go and vote for the new constitution, not because of any other thing, but because of land, especially the coast. Today in Parliament, over 80% of the petitions we receive are actually on issues related to land and security. Now, looking at it, it becomes, therefore, it requires leadership, strong leadership to actually finish these issues of land. But the National Lands Commission, I don't want to belabor the issue of National Lands Commission because you've answered many questions, is one of the key planks in resolving the issues of land. People knew there was a ministry, but then they set up the National Lands Commission so that they can solve the problems. So the minister and National Lands Commission must work together to ensure that eventually people get justice in terms of historical land injustice and review of grants. Nominee, I am reliably informed that since you became CS, you have never had a meeting with the board, the National Lands Commission. You know, a formal meeting to actually sit and discuss issues and give leadership in the sector. And I think this is bringing issues as we move forward. But, Honorable Speaker, what I would like to say this. We have moved amendments to amend the National Lands Commission Act so that we can extend their mandate in a review of grants and hearing historical land injustice. But the biggest impediment has been the ministry, including a letter that we received from you dated 24th April, which is signed by you, that you know there are certain issues. When the committee called you for the meeting to discuss these amendments, the committee said that the minister did not make an input. But when we passed the law in Parliament, when it was going now, we are supposed to send it to us, and we respected your letter, and actually these were my amendments, and we held back. But the vibes I get, if I can use that word, the vibes I get is that probably the minister does not want the National Lands Commission to exist. She wants absolute power to run whatever she wants, the show in the land sector. And they are
making a speech. Can I ask a question?
So my question is, do you still believe that we should not review the law, especially section 14 and 15 of the National Lands Commission, to give them power to review grants and to hear historical injustice? I mean, do you still believe we should not review that and deny the National Lands Commission the power, or you have changed your mind about it?
In those many words, he's asking, are you hostile to the National Land Commission? And have you ever met them since you became minister?
Maybe I will repeat first that I don't know where your information is coming from, Honorable Member, but I said that I enjoy cordial relationship with Otachi Garrison, the chairman, and his commission. That is one. We have not had any conflict, either by exchange of letter or by verbal exchange. So the source you have could be a very biased or an incorrect source. I am working with them. Remember, they are also an independent commission, and their mandate, they must also not encroach on the mandate of the executive, because their mandate is very clear in the Constitution, and I have no personal interest or ministerial interest or executive interest to encroach on their mandate. But they must also remember there is also the clear mandate they have and we have. I have met them, Honorable Chair, in various meetings, formal meetings. I have met the board, and when the chair also confirmed that the board is coming, some of the members did not come, and I don't want to go into that because the commission, I think you need to summon the commission yourself as Parliament. The commission has its own challenges. I think it's right now maybe a bit.
You say you have no problem with them, then continue to list their problems.
Not myself, person, their own challenges, not between me and them, Honorable Chair.
Okay,
that's what I'm saying. Maybe the reason they are not working is the challenge between, but not between me. They have handed over during a formal meeting the national land policy, because as their mandate, they recommend to the ministry the national land policy. We have had a whole morning meeting, the entire board led by their chairman. So, and the chairman also paid a courtesy call. We have had other many meetings for various things with the chair and any other commission that has an issue to deal with at the ministry level. So, I'm okay.
Your Speaker.
Microphone.
Amendment of Section 14
I think my
and 15.
take would be the take of everybody else. I mean, I work for the country. If those provisions, that particular maybe amendment you are talking about, if it is subjected to public participation and debate and other stakeholders and it goes through, then I wouldn't be the one who would hold it. But I don't want to sit here and say that it's okay, because it may not be okay for many other stakeholders.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Alice Wahome, this Ministry of Lands has been cited as corrupt from time immemorial. And the issue of, even when you watch news, many times you find people have been, kicked out of their houses because of the issue of fake titles, which you've addressed very well, I must say, because you've said you have a way of dealing with the fraudsters. Even if they have to go to court, let them go to court. But my question is, what action do you propose to take if you are approved on the staff of the ministry that are clearly, in many instances, involved in the same fraud? Because you've given us a direction on what you do with the fraudsters outside, but what about the staff? Because those ones are your staff. And secondly, when Kenya Kwanza came into office, there was the promise that the issue of evictions and demolitions of people's homes would be a thing of the past. You saw over 10,000 people kicked out of their homes in Mavoko, and that still continues to happen. In fact, recently, I think some people are kicked out of some estates within the city of Nairobi, and compensation given was definitely not enough, and part of it never even got to the registered owners. How do you, has the policy changed? And if so, what do you want to tell those Kenyans that have such issues and are concerned?
Let's take, we're going this way? No, we're coming that way. Amisi?
Speaker, for starting where I am. Speaker, I've been quietly listening to these proceedings. I may not be a happy person because I expected, we vetted the nominee before us 2 years or so ago, and she has served in various portfolios. I expected a progress report, sort of success stories from where we posted her. But I can just see a lot of verbosity on this and this. Land issue, land issue, Speaker, it affects even the public offices. If you look at the audit report of parastatos and the government agencies, 90% of the audit is just on land, either ownership, one entity taking another one to court, one parastato, and it consumes a humongous amount of money between legal fees and accounting fees and the surveying fees. So it is an area that you do not just talk about it in the passing. So I wanted to hear from the nominee. Yes, she has served there. She's going there back. I don't have your progress report so far. But the issue of parastatals and the government.
Can you say she's going back before we decide?
Yes, if she's approved. Yes. The issue of parastatos and the government agencies taking each other to court on land issues. Is there a policy statement that you can solve it once and for all so that we save this country a lot of money that is being used between lawyers and the legal firms in all the parastatos, virtually all of them, and the perennial historical land injustices? I come from Kitale, and I think you've been there. You've tried to come across the land issue of the Kitale prisons, and it is across the country. We are perennially
in constant problems with our constituents and the grabbers and landowners and the government entities perennially. Can it stop once for all? Can we have a progress report from your ministry going forward?
Answer the question by Robert and Missy.
From Robert, what am I doing with my staff? What have I done with the staff that I have said that sometimes they are part and parcel of the cartels? Since I got into the ministry, we have had 4 arrested officers and charged in court. There is another 3 under disciplinary processes. And therefore, I think to that extent, and have had a meeting with all the registrars in the country to restate the policy and the position of the minister and government in terms of this business of participating in fraud. And they know, and we have many other cases with the DCI, and I think there will be likely other officers that will be taken away by those cases. I think I could say to that, and I have also said that I intend to come back to Parliament to sharpen the provisions that will help to deal with the fraudsters. Then you asked, I think the question on kicked out, I don't understand that one. Demolitions of people who, Mathare and elsewhere during the rain season. I think half of those people had already suffered a big blow for being within the riparian and the watercourse area. And even those who were affected because of building along the river were also calling for government intervention to be provided for with homes. We have, I think the estimated numbers, if I'm not wrong, and those would be mainly with the Kindiki, because of interior coordination, was about maybe 20. The rough estimate that came to the cabinet was about 20,000 Kenyans that were affected by the demolitions. I think demolitions are right now not going on, but it was so that they are removed from already insecure space along the river, where in any event they were being devastated by the floods, because we experienced out of the normal, maybe beyond the normal of the floods or rainfall. Therefore, I think going forward as a government, we need better maybe, these are emergencies and you require maybe money to be able to settle those kind of people. So I think everything adds up with, do we have funding to be able to resettle them? They were given 10,000 and some, I'm told some, I think there is information that some may not have received, which is still not sufficient, but it was a gesture for people who also, Kenyans must stop also building along the rivers. I don't know, I know and I understand and I believe that these Kenyans don't have maybe better places, but remember some of the people utilizing, some of those people are not the owners of the structures. The structures could be owned by people living elsewhere. I mean, on government parastatal, I think land moving from one maybe person to another, parastatal fighting each other and cases in court. I have already proposed to the executive that we circulate, before I left office, that I think in June I proposed that all the departments, all the ministries forward to the ministry the list of their properties so that we can now start cracking holistically so that we have a one government approach in terms of recovery. I was given approval to circulate that request to call for departments to forward all land that is said and known to have been grabbed. We will be working on that. Of course, I will require police, I will require the investigative agencies, and I will require the EACC. And I think then it is, whether I'm the minister or not, Kenyans should be prepared to move from government-owned properties because it is public wealth, it is public property, and it is horrible where, as the situation where we are. And I agree with you, we should give it a one holistic approach so that we clear with it once and for all.
Thank you, Chair. Honorable Waziri, I just want to ask you one question regarding the pending bills, because I understand there are many pending bills in your ministry. I need to know how you are going to sort it out, considering the current financial state at the moment. The other question is about compensation. There are many Kenyans who have given their ad to the government, and they've been waiting for their money, and it's like it's taking too long. Thank you.
Ms. Mbogo.
Asante sana mwenyekiti. Nitauliza maswala mawili, swala la kwanza kwa lugha ya Kiswahili na swala la pili kwa lugha ya Kiingereza. Swala langu la kwanza, Mheshimiwa Wahome, ambaye umekuwa waziri katika hii wizara kwa muda mfupi, ningependa kujua mikakati ambayo utaweka katika wizara yako na kupitia serikali kuu ya Kenya Kwanza ya kuhakikisha ya kwamba Wakenya wengi ambao wamejenga kwa miaka nenda miaka rudi katika zile ardhi ambazo zilikuwa zinaitwa GL ama government land, na zile ardhi ambazo kuna absentee landlord, yani wale wamiliki hawajulikani na hawako, na pia wale ambao wamejenga katika ardhi za wale wamiliki ambao walipatiwa ile tunaita grants ama zabuni, rubuni, na watu kama hao hawajafika katika sehemu hizo na wala hawajulikani, kwa sababu kihistoria wakati wa nyuma kulikuwa na siasa zile ambazo mtawala akiingia anaweza kupatia marafiki grant ya mashamba katika sehemu tofauti tofauti, na jambo hili limefanyika sana katika sehemu ya Bonde la Ufa na sehemu ya Pwani. So ni mikakati gani ambayo serikali kupitia wizara yako itafanya ndio tatizo hili la mashamba liwe historia, isiwe kila wakati wa siasa, wakati wa kampeni Wakenya bado wanauliza maswali yale kwa yale. Na niweze pia kuweza kukubaliana na Mheshimiwa Owen wakati aliposema ya kwamba kuna tashwishi ya kwamba uenda pengine wewe, na hiyo ni hisia yangu, ukirudi katika wizara hino utaweza kuendelea kuhujumu tume ya ardhi, kwa sababu wakati mmoja ulikataa kuongeza muda wa kushughulikia mambo ya historia za mashamba. Na tatizo hili ni tatizo nyeti katika Bonde la Ufa, katika Pwani na Kenya kwa jumla. Kwa hivyo hivi sasa umesema ya kwamba mambo yatakuwa tofauti, tunataka tuone ya kuwa tofauti, kwa sababu tatizo hili bado liko, hatujaona ya kwamba kama tumefaidika katika mambo ya dhulma za kihistoria za mashamba. Swali langu la Kiingereza, what specific timeline?
The Kiswahili version was just a speech. Now ask the question.
Mwenyekiti, hilo ni swali na nafikiri Mheshimiwa Wahome ameelewa hilo swali nilivyoliuliza. My second question, Honorable Chairman, what specific timeline did you establish when you are the Cabinet Secretary for the Ministry of Land for the completion of digitization of land records across all the counties? How many counties right now they have those digitized land records? What is your roadmap? Many times we have been putting some allocation in terms of this program of digitization of land records. So what are you telling? What is the status right now? We want to hear, because we know this is the only way where we can avoid some cartels, we can avoid some corruption, and so many other anomalies. Thank you, Honorable Chairman.
Thank you. Sharia, we can take Sharia as well.
Thank you, Honorable Chairman. I think you're teaching us something new of saying no chairs. And Mheshimiwa Wahome, significant parts of the country are formerly trust lands and fall under the Community Lands Act. It's public knowledge that the community land legal regime remains not fully operationalized, and if granted, has not been regime not fully operationalized. If confirmed, what possible solutions do you propose? I thank you, Honorable Chair.
Can you answer those, Alice?
Chair, from Honorable Shurie, trust lands. It is true, most of this is what we call as community land. We have the Community Land Act 2016, and the Community Land Act is operational. We are registering community lands everywhere in the country, but it is a slow process because the communities, the members of those communities must sit and agree, prepare inventory, and it's not an easy process because also we have seen that leadership sometimes within the communities is infiltrated by politics, but the preparation of the inventories is quite a tedious sign. And have that inventory forwarded by the office of the governor under the law so that then you can start the process of registering. But we are on course in terms of various counties, and I believe we need the support, in fact, of elected leadership to expedite those processes as a government. Then Mheshimiwa Mishi is asking, I believe what she's asking me is a policy issue, and in terms of absentee landlord and squatters on people's lands. We are in the process, Mr. Speaker, of finalizing the national land policy. It is a matter that should squarely be captured there so that as a country we agree what to do. But also we must not encourage, there is a lot of criminality in some of the people in terms of moving to people's land and becoming professional squatters. Those must be discouraged, but there are also genuine squatters that the country and the government need to work with and work on, that require sometimes the government to raise budget to purchase where rather the government, but the problem in terms of absence brought to Parliament, input of Parliament would be very critical in terms of those. Then, maybe being the person terms, this particular to say the extent, and in any case, the term of the commission in terms of was not by where an amendment must that cannot very the current injustices can be in our courts about it. That's why time. The question on digitization. Mombasa Isiolo is more or less complete. In another 1 month we'll finish with Isiolo. Murang'a is basically on board. Then we've gone to Machakos. We have 27 counties that we are working with currently. And I wouldn't be able to say specifically. I had estimated that to do the entire work, we may require another 5 years if funding is properly failed, and had talked about between 35 billion to 40 billion Kenya shillings to do the entire exercise.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Honorable Alice, land is a factor of production. And where I come from, land actually is a major source of conflict. And the many questions honorable colleagues have raised, it is indicative of that, whether you are in urban or rural areas. The first question which I want to pose to you is this thing called Ardhi Sasa. The major problem, and that is why Kenyans are angry, is because a simple transfer of land or property from one individual to other take maybe 1 year or 2 years. If really we have a platform, if really it is digitized, why would it take inordinately such a long time if what you are explaining to the committee is seamless? Secondly, I think the issue of corruption in land, it is not just simply said. I think it's profound. Examples are everywhere. In the county of Marsabit, we largely live on community land or trust land. But what is surprising, there are individuals who hold titles in areas that have not been adjudicated. And when they go to the ground, they are told, show us the extent of this land, and they cannot. So what is simply happening is those individuals who are involved in titling are the ones who actually are illegally issuing illegal title deeds.
To address challenge of rapid urban of how roads construction of the issue fundamental in more. Secondly, State Department of Works launched the National Building Code 24. The is to update aim to the Kenya and of on being and opinion of this. When you go to the areas, you can have
pending bills, Honorable Speaker. The pending bills, we have about 18 billion legacy or pending bills, some of them from cases that are filed against the ministry. And these are being considered as part of the national pending bills from other ministries where a decision must be made so that we agree as a country how we deal with all the pending bills, including verification processes. That is a process being undertaken with the leadership of the National Treasury and the executive. So we will have decisions made together. Compensation, I don't understand which compensation, because compensation in terms of compulsory acquisition is done by the National Land Commission, and basically that is not within my mandate. Any other compensation, maybe by judgments, those are pending cases or pending bills. I believe I could start with the question of Adisasa had been answered, but I am saying that this really, I'm thinking that we should get accommodation, because it's now real time possible to access your records and get information regarding your land records, especially when somebody else other than you want to access your records. You are the one to approve. I think the challenge for me is how to move faster to the other, maybe not now for me, for the ministry, for me if I'm approved, but for the ministry, the challenge is how to expedite. And I had said that with the necessary funding, it is possible to expedite. There is an issue you raised regarding titles in Marsabit or even elsewhere. Let me also warn the members, just alert the members and the public that it is not all titles that are out there that are actually valid titles or are titles. They could just be papers with no worth of a title deed. There are many, some are just made at Liver Road, like some of the cases the Honorable Majority Leader was raising, title papers. When you look at them, they look like they are genuine, but they are made from River Road and they cannot transfer proprietary rights to any property. So I don't know what you are referring to in Marsabit. I think it would be important for me to have the records so that I'll be able to know what you are dealing with or referring to, or the ministry to be able to be brought to their attention so that they can maybe stop whatever could be happening. And I agree, it is profound, and the land issue is obviously very emotive. So therefore, community land, be part of the community land processes so that you can help to expedite the community to have their land put in a title, because it's private land. Community land is considered as private land for that community. The rights are the same, so they would need to come back together quickly so that there is no land left without title. I think security would be secured by the individuals involving read, and we are processing in court. My vision is the vision of the ministry. The minister doesn't have a vision personally, but the ministry has a vision in terms of urban development. And in terms of urban development, we have the Urban Areas and Cities Act. And that is specifically addressing the problem of rapid growth of population vis-a-vis the facilities available in our small towns. And that's why the KUSIP, that is Kenya Informal Settlement Program, and Kenya Support Program for the urban areas has been developed, which of course is basically focusing on and big, proper planning, PDP preparations, and all those physical planning for the land use and for the development use are part of the condition. So in my view, if you program. The governments, the planning at the so that then it properly planned towns now before they become fully congested. My ministry, with the leadership of the Directorate of Physical Planning, former ministry, I beg your pardon, Mr. Speaker, has sufficient capacity to be able, and of course we can always increase capacity as a government, to be able to guide the county governments, and they always draw back for purposes of planning, and they seek support from us. And of course we have the Physical Planning Act that requires also to be maybe reviewed to capture some of the issues that you are raising. So my vision is to see well-planned towns that have all necessary facilities of a big town, but even better planned than our big towns like Nairobi. You cannot say that it is planned, but they grow bigger. Sanitation.
You division of function of government and county governments. You have policy and general in this document. Have you ever found the governments to discuss by those? I ask this because if you look around the country, we have completely misstepped, so to speak, in and land use activity. Anybody and any road up and builds a shop. Look at all netted security, water, and everything else. What have you done, and if you are confirmed, what do you plan to do to effect this constitutional responsibility?
Honorable Chair, it is not the easiest to actually work with county governments, you know, and for government, national government has been having its own challenges in terms of intergovernmental relationships. On my part, I haven't had a meeting with the county governments as a whole, but we have worked with different county governments or governors in terms of their planning, and they have brought their planning documentation to the ministry, and for sometimes for even for support in terms of that planning, and ensuring that it meets the thresholds that are required. I think going forward, I would say that it is necessary that I meet the county government in terms of the institution itself, the COG, so that we can agree. But they also think that the national government is encroaching a lot on their mandate, and they refer a lot to Schedule 4. And I do agree that quality standards, regulation, and of course capacity building is some of the things we are doing under the Kenya Urban Support Program. Within that, my ministry before me has held several meetings with the county, with the COG, and the CEO of COG has been a constant, and I think she's done a good job for the county governments. Yeah, has worked well with my ministry.
Some Kenyans sending messages to us.
Yes.
Why did she take sides with the Kirima's land dispute when she came into office?
I didn't take side with the Kirima land. I took side with the owner of the land. It could have been any other person. And when I pronounce myself as to ownership, sometimes it helps in terms of dispute resolution, and that is what it is. My task is to say who is the owner, and I said that it's a long dispute, and at that time there was no outstanding court case.
Another Kenyan says the nominee has declined to answer a question from Dawood on how fees was increased from 300 to 3,000 without public participation. Another one says implementation, this is actually a member of parliament called Andon Olwoch, that you've ignored the implementation of decisions of the House of Parliament on matters that have been brought to your attention following decisions in the House. Another person called MacDonald Walbengo says, why has the ministry not processed titles to public institutions and schools? Because my grandfather donated land to a school, and to date we are unable to get our own title and give the school the title on the land we donated. That's a very good Kenyan. Other Kenyans would go to grab the land back. Another one says, who are these cartels the minister is talking? Another one says, land from firing the pay.
Honorable Speaker, let me clarify on schools. We have over close to 50,000 programs. Not of it, and my husband. Then yes. In those 2 years, I was just a few adjustments. It is the properties that have
we have checked your documents and we find them to be correct.
Speaker.
Thank you. lunch.
Chairman.
Discussing